Busted.
The reviews are in.
Awesome.
You wanted more Joe Concha. And we heard you. More Joe. More show.
We're talking to you. Under promise and over deliver.
Joe Concha. Weeknights at 9. Plus Sunday mornings at 11 on 77 WABC.
Jimmy Kimmel no longer tries to be funny. Not that he ever really was.
Joe Concha. Weeknights at 9. Plus Sunday mornings at 11.
Democrats defending cocaine coming into the country.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best-fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Always look to the sky. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
From the powerhouse blowtorch signal of Talk Radio 77 WABC, broadcasting out of the center of the universe, New York City, welcome to another exciting edition, as you tell us, of the Dr. Sky Experience. We like to call it Theater of the Mind. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, always great guests here as we talk not only about the great subjects of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests, and stories of American exceptionalism. As always, get in early on the 2-hour show with your questions and comments. The contact number, 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. On this particular show, we, of course, like one of the 4 types of dialogue, and the conversational dialogue that we like best is what you're hearing. And we love the conversations that we have with critical thinking. If you'd like to listen, and we encourage you to do so, previous iterations of the Dr. Sky Experience, simply go to WABCRadio.com or RedAppleAudioNetworks.com for not only this show, but what about all the other great hosts 24/7 on this powerful signal. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our helmsmen, Tony and Bill, who navigate this particular signal as we go through the airwaves, as they say, heard in 173 countries, all 50 states, around the nation, around the world, and I'm sure deep out into the cosmos. As we talk with you, not at you, in Theater of the Mind, always great guests. So on tonight's adventure, ladies and gentlemen, another very special guest. In just a few moments, we'll be introducing you to an author of a phenomenal book that we recommend wholeheartedly, and it goes onto the Dr. Sky Experience bookshelf. The name of the book, Time Now, The True Nature of Reality, by Colin Gillespie. Ladies and gentlemen, this book is like something like a Bible as far as its size, and it's incredible. Some 800 pages of great information about what? About the true nature of reality, about science, technology, and the things that we might not know. But going back just for a moment to digress, you've been hearing by now about this incredible winter storm. 180 million people in its path. 17 states have declared a state of emergency, but not to panic you. 2,300 flights have canceled, and a major ice storm could, of course, be detected in the southern states. It's obviously caused by something called a polar vortex. From the world of weather, we define it very simply as this. It's a stratospheric warming, I should say, that collapses this wall that hides this big, cold, thick thing we call the polar vortex. And what happens when the stratospheric warming collapses? That polar vortex leaks out along with the generous energy of the jet stream in a wavy form. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, around the world, the highest and lowest temperatures in the last 24 hours in Australia? In Tarcoola, the high temperature today, or maybe yesterday for those listening, was 116 degrees Fahrenheit. And in Yarol, Russia, the low temperature, minus 59.8 degrees Fahrenheit. But a special guest is going to be joining us in a moment. Colin Gillespie. The temperature there, where he's broadcasting with us from, is Winnipeg, Canada. In Ontario, the province is probably this weekend to be the coldest place on Earth, maybe minus 58 degrees like that of Russia. New York City temperatures right now, approximately 16 degrees Fahrenheit. And in Phoenix, Arizona, where I'm broadcasting from, a mild 59 degrees Fahrenheit. But let's talk a little bit about what we're hearing on this particular iteration. Tonight's adventure on the Dr. Sky Experience, a book called The True Nature of Reality. An introduction of our guest is in order. Colin Gillespie, an Australian-Canadian physicist, is the author of This Changes Everything, A Portrait of a People, A Study in Survival, and Time One. Discover how the universe began, as well as a dozen of scientific research publications in physics, biophysics, neurophysiology, and radiation biology. He's also a lawyer and strategic analyst and has written about social planning, law, and environmental management. He's an avid traveler who likes to pause and watch the world and has spent time in more than 50 countries and on all 7 continents. With that, a hearty welcome to our special guest, Colin Gillespie. Thank you for joining us, sir. I know it's cold up there. That's one of the coldest temperatures I've heard about. But we continue here, and we thank you for being part of the Dr. Sky Experience. How are you this morning, sir?
Well, I'm fine, thank you, and thanks for those kind words.
I appreciate you. You know, it's not every day we get someone who writes this gigantic book, The True Nature of Reality, the main title, Time Now. Talk a little bit about yourself as far as being a world traveler. I mean, of all these different continents that you visited, I'd love to hear a little about Antarctica, another cold place, but almost one of the most amazing continents on the earth. Tell us your experiences there, if you've been there. I'm sure this is an interesting story.
Well, my wife and I stumbled into it, having bumped into a guy in a bookstore who turned out to be Shackleton's cousin, and he was getting up an expedition on a ship with 30 passengers. What was a Russian research ship.
Yes.
And somehow or another, we managed to hitch a ride, and it was, quite an experience.
Well, they say, isn't this true, that it's one of the driest places on Earth, and so many mysterious stories come out of Antarctica, and you're talking about someone who was related to the great Shackleton. I mean, this is an amazing place on Earth, and hopefully it's preserved over the ages and not destroyed with all kinds of garbage and all kinds of things to make it an overpopulated area. It's a very important continent and in the whole world of how the dynamics of weather and meteorology work. Wouldn't that be correct?
Yes, indeed. And your concern is, I think, right on. The group we were with were very, very conscious of not even leaving a footprint. So.
Well, before we move on to the details of this very interesting subject, and I hope the audience understands, and I say that with love and respect to the audience, that last week we had another great gentleman on here talking about particle physics. We had the physicist, Dr. Don Lincoln from Fermilabs, talking with us about the whole concept of what's going on deep below the atom. But your book, I mean, how long did it take to write this book? I mean, this seems to be a book for everything, about not just about science, but about everything that we do every day. And you interject so many of these different stories from great physicists and other people that are humanitarians. How long did it take you to write this? I'm impressed with the book so far.
Well, I would say it was about 10 years start to finish.
That's a lot of time. That's amazing. Let's get into some of the details here. And again, I don't want to make this as if it's a classroom session here, but we do have what we call theater of the mind, as I mentioned, Colin, that what I like to do here is none of these guests that we have, including yourself, I think could ever be, how do I say this, listened to in 1 hour with the complicated subjects that we talk about. Why are we doing this? Because we love to expand people's minds on the great mysteries. So I'm going to ask you to give me your definition of something that you begin the book with. The subject of ontology. Talk to us about what that is, because that's going to be a big part of this conversation with our audience this morning.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, look, the simple definition going back to ancient Greek philosophers is it's the study of what is. That's where the word comes from. On is the Greek verb to be. Mm-hmm. And so it's the consideration of what exists in reality and what doesn't. So I suppose another way to put it is in the title of the book. It's reality.
Amazing. And that's going to go through this whole the airwaves that we have here on Talk Radio 77 WAB, is this going to be the major part of the conversation? Because no matter how hard I try to think about this, and think of it, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening out there, what is reality? What is consciousness? These are things that are just baffling to the mind. Maybe one day we'll get to explore this deeper with, hopefully, in a positive side, with artificial intelligence. But the opposite of ontology, as you described, the study of what exists, what is real, how would we then talk about epistemology? Because I know this gets into some really deep frameworks. How would you look at epistemology versus ontology? I think it's important to know. Well,
let me illustrate it. You can study, let's say, red. It's a color, it's a word,
Sure.
It's an idea. You can write books about it. But then there's the actual thing, red. Now, ontology is concerned with the actual thing, and epistemology is concerned with what we think we know about it.
Interesting. And I mean, these are deep, deep subjects. And in the world today, I mean, so many people lean on artificial intelligence, Doctor, to go and try to answer some of these great mysteries. What's your opinion? And not to put you in a position like to put you under the bus, so to speak, on this. There'd be no reason for that from me, or I'm sure any of the listeners out there. But what's your opinion right now of artificial intelligence and its generalities of what it can and cannot do, and the warnings that many people have expressed? Let's hear from you, because you've studied this, and I think people are interested to hear your comment on artificial intelligence so far.
Well, it's the topic of a chapter in the next book. So I'm working on my view of it, shall we say. But one way to put it is, look, the A is right and the I is not. It's artificial. Intelligence, it's very good at looking like intelligence. In fact, that's what it's trained to do, is to look intelligent. Mm-hmm. But say you ask AI to produce a bibliography of all of the books on time.
Yes.
In a second or two, it'll give you an impressive-looking list of books. But you wouldn't want to rely on it because many of them won't actually exist.
Interesting. Complications in the mind. And, on this radio show, we get into the depth of AI on both sides, the pro and the con. And many people are concerned, Doctor, that this is something that unless you kind of keep it in the box, or you, meaning humans, control it, it's something that obviously could become a nefarious thing to our world. I'm not trying to scare people out there. They have enough to deal with a great storm that's headed up the East Coast and the mid-portion of the United States. But what's interesting about this is I've studied this for many, many years. Ray Kurzweil, of course, in his early iteration book, he wrote a book. You probably read it. Maybe you know the man, The Age of Spiritual Machines, back in 1999, in which he prophesied about what would become this next generation of AI. But moving fast forward, his other books, obviously, the singularity is near, and now the singularity is nearer. How would you say that? And define the singularity for people that may not understand this, as I get into many deep discussions with you and the audience.
My understanding of it is it's the notion of when we get to the point that some AI entity is supposedly as intelligent as a person. We have enough difficulty, frankly, trying to figure out what that means when you're dealing with a person. I understand that there are concerns about, the possibility of the so-called singularity coming along soon. I don't think so. I do agree with the concerns about AI. I think there's a good reason for that. But I would be more concerned about AI being let loose on studying up your preferences for what movies you want to watch or the like on social media, because they're programmed to be addictive now, and AI will get to be a lot better at that.
Interesting. If you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, on the Dr. Sky Experience, thank you for being part of our Theater of the Mind conversations that we have. As you tell us, per the email, my email, just drsky@wabcradio.com. Always willing and happy to answer questions as best as I can. And if not, we, of course, ask our guests, with their permission, to forward them on, and certainly they can carry the load of the questions that I may not be able to answer. But if you're just joining us, the contact number here is 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. What are we talking about? We're speaking with Dr. Colin Gillespie. His book, ladies and gentlemen, this is like an epic book. I mean, 800 pages of unbelievable material. If you're into the sciences, it's not necessarily complicated. It's written, as you know, and you'll tell us more, in a very simple, straightforward way that you piece together all these conversations about what is time, what is reality, what is space, and things of that nature. The subtitle, The True Nature of Reality. So if you have questions, ladies and gentlemen, as you're hunkering down as the storm continues, hope everybody will be safe and stay off the roads and have their preparation for these natural events that happen. But I have to ask you, let's diverge over to this meteorologic story here, and I know you have commentary. We're talking about how cold it is in areas in the province of Ontario. But it's not unusual for Canadians and people who live north in these latitudes to experience this cold weather. But did I have it right and I'm just reading this, that the polar vortex is literally a collapse of this particular stratospheric wall, a temperature change that forces this big polar vortex to kind of, sneak down and leak down? Tell us about that from your own experience.
Well, look, I'm no expert in that field.
Sure.
I read much the same thing that you are. But my experience is probably a little untypical. As you noted, I'm from Australia, and so which you just found the hottest temperature in. That's what I grew up with. And if people here take it in their stride, I do my best to pretend that I'm taking it in my stride.
Well, blessings to you and everyone, but that would be a nice place to be. I've never been to Australia, and from our side of the astronomical side, tell us, it's probably still, right, Doctor, one of the most amazing places because of the lack of light pollution. And I'd love, hopefully one day, on my list of things to do, and many people listening, I'm sure, share with your experiences too, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been down there. But still one of the sacred places on Earth for dark skies, and wow, that southern hemisphere sky is just rockin' beautiful, I can imagine.
It is. I'm a farm boy, firstly, so I could, when I was a kid, step out the door and see the sky, have fond memories of camping in Wilson's Promontory, where you're the southernmost tip of the mainland, and nothing developed anywhere nearby. And the stretch of stars and galaxies that you can see from there, like nothing you can see from here.
Absolutely. The Southern Milky Way, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen it, if you have, chime in and tell us about it, because our conversation is really going to go very deep into the cosmos. Here's a question. You don't get this every day on most venues in broadcasting, but we'll go ahead and we'll attempt to have an answer from you on this. In the best way you can describe it, what is reality? I mean, this has always perplexed people, and the beat goes on. What is reality, in your opinion, from your book?
The starting point, my starting point, these questions are very well known to physicists and philosophers and have been for 2,500 years, are two related questions. What is space and what is time? Mm-hmm. Because we're looking at reality, or our version of reality, in space and in time. And classically, they've been viewed as it were, the stage on which reality unfolds, and the reality is made of matter that we see, and we see how it moves and interacts. The real story is that matter is a tiny fraction, about 5%, of the totality of the substance of the universe.
Amazing.
And most of the matter, about 5 times as much, is invisible. There's a great debate about what it is. It's called dark matter, which is just a label. In Time Now, I explain why we should understand it to be black holes. But the largest part, 2/3 of the substance of the universe, 2/3 of the mass or the energy, whichever way you want to look at it, is in fact space itself. Space is a thing. And so if you think how we typically think of space as just emptiness, we've got the wrong idea from the get-go.
It's amazing. 50 years ago, we probably would never be having this conversation because the radio station was here and proud. I myself was just a kid. But the truth of the matter is, not to date people as far as what their age is, we're learning so much, Doctor, here. It's just so incredible. The data and information keeps coming in. It's so hard to keep track of all this. And see, the purpose of these kind of conversations for the audience, when we talk about theater of the mind and have these conversations about our next adventure, it's just mind-boggling, and that's probably not even the right word here, because as you mentioned before, I want to qualify this. The world that we see, maybe 4 or 5% of baryonic matter, ladies and gentlemen. This is the stuff of us, and the good doctor, I'm sure, could go into it deeper. Isn't that amazing, ladies and gentlemen, that we're sitting on this little planet, as Carl Sagan called it, the pale blue dot, running around the sun, in this vast universe, and we're only scratching the surface on this stuff, because reality, so many people are saying that this could be a false reality, that everything's going on here is such a finite. If you take your 2 fingers, right, Doctor, and squeeze them together, one was the past and one's the future, that infinitesimal, tiny little moment of time, how can we even measure that? Because it's amazing. It's like every fraction of a second is even more divided down into smaller parts. It makes it more confusing, but reality, it's almost like we're accustomed to what we think is reality, but how true is that really? We're almost at a break here, and it's deep, deep, deep stuff, right?
The interesting part of, the most interesting to me, is that Max Planck wrestled this question to the ground more than 100 years ago, in the year 1900, actually. And the time that you're squeezing between your fingers, between the past and the future,
sure,
the present, now, that's the now of Time Now. And it is a Planck time long. And Max Planck discovered how long that is in a fashion which has basically puzzled people ever since as to how he did it. And there's a couple of chapters on that. So I won't try to
and Planck time
it.
For the audience is like what? 10 to the 9 minus what? 47th second or something of that tiny
10
time?
to the minus 43.
43, excuse me. That's incredible. How in God's name could somebody even measure it? That's a story that we're going to come back with as we continue here, Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, we know you're out there. We'll be getting to Michael in New Jersey, Christine in Lower Manhattan, Frank in Maine, and all of the others out there that join us on our weekly adventure that we call for 2 hours, both Friday night, midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as we move into Saturday, and then again Saturday night, midnight to 2 a.m. Sunday. Theater of the Mind, as we call it, and our special adventure tonight is with a very special guest, as many of our guests are special, Dr. Colin Gillespie. Here's a book, ladies and gentlemen, you should really look at. It's written in a way that the average person, like myself and many others out there, can understand. The book is Time Now. The book is black in cover with white lettering. The bold Time Now. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the subtitle, The True Nature of Reality. We'll be back just in a few moments, Doctor, as we take this hard break. And with you, ladies and gentlemen, of the Dr. Sky Experience, once again, proud to be here on this powerhouse signal, Talk Radio 77, WABC, beaming out, ladies and gentlemen, throughout the universe, from the center of the universe, New York City, to you on the Dr. Sky Experience. We'll be right back.
This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hi, this is Chubby Checker, and you're listening to the Dr. Sky Show. Stay there and get an experience in science. Keep your eyes on the skies.
The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance. It's the illusion of knowledge. So said the late and great Stephen Hawking. Joining me, Dr. Sky, and the Dr. Sky Experience at 32 minutes after the hour. Our special guest for the 2 hours, ladies and gentlemen, and sure we need these 2 hours with these technical subjects, Dr. Cullen Gillespie, the author of Time Now, The True Nature of Reality. Doctor, welcome back. Let's go to the callers here. We have a full board of callers on line number 5. Let's welcome Michael in New Jersey. Michael, good morning. Thanks for staying up with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dr. Sky, and it's great talking with you too, Dr. Gillespie. Just as an aside, Dr. Sky, isn't it true that we only see 6% of the matter in the universe, and 90 some odd other is dark matter?
Well, let me let the doctor answer it, because I was saying on this one, Michael, is that we see 4 or 5%, which is baryonic matter. But, Doctor, take over, because this is very technical, and, Michael, you asked some good questions to qualify the numbers.
I'd say 5 is the current best estimate from the Planck satellite. 5% is what we see, Michael, and but that's 5% of the total matter energy of the universe. There's about 5 times more matter we don't see, and then 67% is space, which typically is described as dark energy. E equals mc squared. You can figure out the equivalent mass of that, but it's 2/3 of it is the mass energy of space.
Michael, isn't that fascinating? I mean, see how little we know about the universe? I mean, what the doctor's explaining. But you get the last word. Your comment to that, I'm sure it's going to be a good one. Go ahead.
So, as I said, it was an aside, because we were talking about the singularity before. Mm-hmm. And the good doctor said that it was when AI sort of got the same amount of intelligence as us. And my understanding of the singularity is where the analog, the humans, begin to meld into the digital world.
Interesting. Doctor, that's a pretty interesting perspective. What say you?
It's a new one to me, but again, I'm no expert on this field. It's certainly a very topical question.
Michael, lastly, your concerns on AI. Tell us right from the heart. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, or what do you think? I mean, I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear what the people think out there.
Dr. Sky, I would just like to say the 2 books you mentioned before, The Singularity,
yes,
and The Singularity is Coming and The Singularity is Here,
right.
Those both delve deeply into the actual mechanics of going from, just a normal human life with trees and nature and getting involved with the digital world.
Absolutely. And they're very interesting books to read. And I've read most of those. I said it started off, and the good doctor heard this, that Ray Kurzweil had written The Age of Spiritual Machines. So if you're going to start that track, other than his amazing book that we're getting into here, this incorporates so much of what we're going to be talking about in the world of space and time. But those are good books to follow. It's The Age of Spiritual Machines, then it's The Singularity is Near, and now it's The Singularity is Nearer. But thank you, Michael. Interesting perspective from you and everybody out there. Let's continue. We wish you the best of a great morning and stay cool. No, stay warm in this snowstorm that's coming. Let's go to line 4. Let's welcome Christine in Lower Manhattan to a conversation with Dr. Colin Gillespie. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing okay. And I'm so glad that you're on the air because I want to ask a question, if I may.
Please.
We hear about this monster storm, 40 states, millions of Americans. I haven't heard anybody mention any other country that it's affecting. Other countries that are near the border, like Russia, Tibet, China, are they having any of this or not? Because I remember vividly the program that you presented the other day about geoengineering.
Sure.
I'm wondering if there's any of that going on.
I know. You know something, and again, I don't think it's fair for me to jump onto this with a good doctor because unless you want to say something, doctor, I know that maybe meteorology. No, why don't you take a stab at that if you choose to, and then I'll add a few comments to myself. Go ahead, doctor.
My sense of it is that the size of a really big storm system is rather less than the size of the continental United States. Smaller again than the size of Canada. So a really big system, you could probably fit 2 of them into the United States and 3 or 4 of them into Canada. And so I don't expect that they're going to reach to Russia or China. But again, I'm not a weather expert either. So
no, I understand, doctor. But Christine, just a little additional information. I started the show by talking about it a little bit from the meteorological side. And it is this the warming. Let me get my numbers and facts straight. It's the warming of stratosphere up there in the atmosphere that keeps this particular bubble, let's say, of the cold air that's up there. But when it warms up, it tends to kind of push that air back down. So you get this polar vortex, as I like to say, sneaking down. And then the jet streams continue depending on their flow. That's all due to who knows what. It could be the increase of, particles from volcanic ash. It could be the seeding of the clouds. Who knows what it is? But to answer your question, I'm not a meteorologist, but I can say this way. I'm not sure where else in the world. This is kind of an isolated experience. It happens to other places on Earth. But in this particular case, both of us do not have an answer if it's now affecting Russia. But it does go and change, and it warps around the world. You get the last word, Christine. Thank you.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
I say this is the second experience I've had with the polar vortex, the first being in the year 2010. And they had snowy owls in Florida. It was really mentioned in the New York Times, so everybody experienced it, but I don't know how many people remember it or connecting it with the current named polar vortex.
Absolutely.
And your program is fascinating, and there's just one aspect of this whole idea of the universe and space and time that I've learned that differs from that is what I learned from Tibetan Buddhism.
Sure. Many different disciplines have studied these subjects, Christine. But unfortunately, your phone or maybe a solar flare is coming into the interdiction here, but it's kind of breaking up a little bit. So not to let the audience have to listen to the crackle, but we always want to listen to you. And I thank you, Christine. I hope we've answered some of this in our best way. But let's continue here as we go to line number 3. Let's welcome Frank in a cold state, but a beautiful state of Maine. Good morning. You're on with Dr. Colin Gillespie. How you doing up there, Frank?
Good morning, Dr. Sky. Always a pleasure. It's beautiful, minus 16 degrees up here in the state of Maine. Yes, and we're supposed to get 12 to 24 inches of snow. So, Dr. Gillespie, always a pleasure, actually, not always a pleasure. My question is related to the mysteries of not Sky, but of your travels, and that you've traveled extensively, and that's really fantastic. Of Alaska and Australia. Now, in Alaska, there was a place, a triangle known as the Alaskan Triangle. And in Australia, I believe you have a mountain range that the Aborigines call the Black Mountains. And mysterious happenings have happened in those two places. And my question is, in relation to where you've been, in relation to your studies, do you feel that there's an interconnection between these two places, or some type of imaginary line like an equator, but it goes into these two places where things do disappear?
Wow. Interesting, Doctor.
Oh, that's a big, tough question. Well, firstly, I've never been to Alaska, and I didn't know about the area that you're describing there. The Australian Aboriginal view, which is, as far as I understand it, remarkably common right across the continent, would probably entertain that kind of thinking. The Australian Indigenous cosmology, their ontology, if you like, there's a great movie about it. It's called Where the Green Ants Dream.
Interesting.
And it depicts fairly accurately, I think, the notion that all of the world that we experience is in fact being dreamed by these ants that are real ants, and for which the Aborigines in the movie are quite concerned that they should not be disturbed. So my personal take on this and a lot of similar questions is a pretty simple one. Okay? I have this notion that I know a little bit, and I imagine a little bit more, and I don't really have enough imagination to get my head around how much there is to know that I don't yet know.
Well, Frank, we're up against a break here, but if you have about a minute, if you'd like to make a comment back, and I do appreciate you, as always, up in the great state of Maine, listening with us on the Dr. Sky Experience. You have a final comment? You're on the air.
Yes, Dr. Sky. Thank you, Dr. Gillespie. I thought you said you went to Alaska. It was Antarctica. I'm so sorry about that. But yes, the Aborigines they do have their theories, and I would like to see that movie one day. Maybe you'll give me more perspective. But thank you for that. I really appreciate it, and
we thank you.
It was really good talking to you.
Have a good morning, and we'll continue with our special guest, Dr. Golden Gillespie. The book titled, seriously, ladies and gentlemen, a phenomenal book, Time Now, The True Nature of Reality, a must-read book. It goes to my Dr. Sky bookshelf, and hopefully yours. You can get it where all good books are sold. And if we haven't gotten to on line 2, Don in Long Island, line 5, Caesar in Brooklyn, and line 4, Alexia in Queens, you will be coming up. Along with you, ladies and gentlemen, still plenty of time in our 2-hour Theater of the Mind, discussing great subjects, not only from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, celebrity guests, and stories of American exceptionalism. And I ask you kindly, for the next Dr. Sky February Sky Update, simply go to the Dr. Sky Experience at WABCRadio.com, an 11-minute update, as you have asked for, ladies and gentlemen, on the wonders of what you can see in the nighttime sky. We will be right back.
This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hello, I'm Sergei Khrushchev, and I'm the doctor and I'm professor at the Brown University. I'm son of the former Soviet leader, and I have the privilege to be on the Dr. Sky radio show. I think it's very interesting and very informative.
Let me be terse. Our universe grows daily more diluted. A comment back in 1940 from the great physicist and author George Gamow. As we move through time and space, great parts of the subject that you'll be hearing about, a book entitled Time Now, subtitled The True Nature of Reality, our special guest, Dr. Cullen Gillespie. As we continue with the callers, Doctor, let's continue here as we talked on line number 2. We've got Don in Long Beach. Good morning. How are you? And thanks for being with us.
Hi, Dr. Gillespie, Dr. Sky. I have a question. The universe is infinite. I'm sorry, space is infinite. Space is infinite. The universe is finite. So based on that, are we trying to find other universes? Is there a way we can develop the technology to find out if there's any other universes out there? Just curious on that.
Very good, Don.
Oh, that's a great question, Don. Thank you. The starting point in answering you is that your premise that space is infinite and that the universe is finite is not something that science can support. In fact, this goes back to 1917, a paper by Albert Einstein, where he examined the various possibilities, including precisely the one that you're describing, and showed that they were contradictory, that they contradicted, led to an internal contradiction. And he concluded that the universe had to be finite, and that the universe is all that there is, and this is the difficult part to get your head around. There is no edge to it. It doesn't matter what direction you go in, you're not going to come to the end of the universe, even though it's finite. In fact, what you'll do is you'll find yourself back where you started, arriving from the opposite direction.
Wow.
It's something that I go to some lengths to explain in the book, because, like I say, it's not easy to get your head around that notion.
And that's why it's some 800 pages, Doctor. And Don, you get the last word. Aren't these subjects fascinating? I mean, it's just incredible to know we live in this tiny little place. Yeah, go ahead.
I think Dr. Gillespie answered my question, but just to add to my original premise, based on size, I would think, would it be possible to have universes like infinitesimally small? I don't know. I mean, is there a limit to size? I mean, can we keep getting smaller and smaller? Maybe. I don't know. I'm asking you.
Wow.
Look, this is, Steve, this is another great question. And the answer is yes, you're right, there is. And it goes back to much the same era. It goes back to Max Planck, 1900, who discovered exactly what that smallest size is. Now, he didn't grasp why it is the smallest size. You're going to have to read the book to find that out, because it'll take too long for me to get into here. But I don't want to, with that, duck your basic other question about other universes. And again, there's a chapter on that. My conclusion is that we don't have any basis for talking or even thinking effectively about that. It's not, if you're in this universe, it's not a meaningful question to consider other universes. This universe is all that there is.
Amazing. And even more amazing as we talk about these subjects. Don, thank you so much for being part of the show here. Time, of course, is of the essence. It appears that the Dr. Sky experience is now going international. As we go to line number 1, let's welcome Paul in England across the ocean. Good morning. How are you?
Hello there. Hello, Dr. Sky and Dr. Gillespie. The sort of question I want to ask is there life on Mars, do you think? Do you think we'll find more life on Mars, planet Mars?
Interesting.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Go ahead, sir. Please ask it again.
Is there life on Mars, the planet Mars?
Oh, boy. Well, of course, there's quite a lot going on to try to get an actual practical answer to that question. In fact, there are a bunch of samples that have been gathered by the Mars rover that hopefully we're going to give us an answer, but the latest news is that the budget for picking them up has disappeared, so maybe...
You are so right, Doctor. And Paul, you ask a very good question here. I just wanted to jump in. The Perseverance, maybe you've read this, Paul, has actually found certain they called them leopard spots on some of that area in what might have been a lake in the Jezero crater. But he's right. The doctor's saying that those test tubes, as I like to call them, that were left there for a future Mars return sample mission, that project is kind of on hold, if not underfunded, or maybe doesn't exist. But, Paul, it's fascinating. You get the last word as we go to the top of the hour. And what time is it over in England right now, if you don't mind me asking?
It's nearly 6 o'clock in the morning in England at the moment, yeah.
Well, goodness that you're with us, and you get the last word, sir, so please continue.
Hopefully, if they find life on the moon, so obviously they'll find some life on Venus and also other planets as well, also Mars as well, and all other planets of the universe as well. And hopefully, man will go to the universe eventually in time, probably, forever, probably, fingers crossed.
Yes. Much to be explored, and hopefully time and hopefully funding. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, Paul, you may know this or may not, listeners may not, the NASA budget is extremely small compared to many of the three-letter alphabet agencies, so they do a lot with a little, and they have a really dynamic new leader, the director of NASA. Mr. Isaac Min, I think, is going to make an excellent director. Why? Because he knows space, he's been there, and he understands what the astronauts go through, and I think he has a very analytical mind, and especially knowing how to do a spreadsheet of where the funds should go and how to get more. Thank you, Paul, in England. We appreciate you. And ladies and gentlemen, if we haven't gotten to you, we will, of course, like Line 5 with Caesar in Brooklyn, Alexi in Queens, and Stu in Brooklyn. We will do our very best. And, of course, you'll be able to express your opinions here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Time goes fast, doesn't it, Doctor? Literally, time goes very fast. And that's why, seriously, it would be a disservice to you as a guest and to our listeners if we had a short 1-hour interview on the complexities of the universe. So when we come back in hour number 2 with your okay, sir, I'd like to talk about more definitions from you. What is space? What is time? Let's talk about these subatomic particles. Let's talk about particle physics so everybody can understand. And since this is theater of the mind, it may be not a little more difficult, or maybe it is more difficult since we can't see these particular, images. But you and all of us will do the very best job, and it's always a good job, about talking about what's below the atom. And we go to the Greek, Democritus, right? Talking about these things way back when. I mean, these were real philosophers and scientists, even though they didn't have all the great computers. It's amazing what they did to talk about what they thought was below that of the atom. Am I correct?
Yes.
That's totally amazing stuff. Yeah, because it's mind-boggling. I mean, you think you can't see an atom in your hand, I guess, individually, of course. That's ridiculous to say that. But I'm amazed at how people can dig deeper and deeper into this. And we had last week a gentleman like yourself, a very specialized individual in science, talking to us about what they do at these particle accelerators. And you've got a couple of minutes before the top of the hour. Describe to people what they do with particle accelerators, and that's amazing unto itself.
The long history of particle accelerators is fascinating. The recent history, less so, Steve. And the reason is we're kind of running out of gas, as it were. As you try to smash smaller and smaller things, you need more and more energy to do that. And the kinds of energies that are developed in the the particle accelerator that today has done the most of that, the Large Hadron Collider on the border of France and Switzerland. It puts the energy of a speeding train into a little clump of particles, protons, if you can imagine that, and then smashes them into each other to see what comes out. And the problem is that what's coming out isn't really teaching us anything new.
I'm surprised.
What
Interesting.
is most interesting to me, and again, I write about this, is that the universe actually puts on a much better show because it has things going on out there, if we can find ways to watch, that are many-fold higher energies, as in 1,000 times higher energy. We're never going to get to build an accelerator on Earth that achieves what is actually going on.
Well, more, ladies and gentlemen, with our special guest, Dr. Cullen Gillespie, author of Time Now, The True Nature of Reality. Your questions, for those of you that are still on hold, we will get to you if you're kind enough to stay with us, and we hope you are. And for the rest of our audience, the contact number 1-800-848-9222.
Always look to the sky. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
From the powerhouse blowtorch signal of Talk Radio 77 WABC, broadcasting where? From the center of the universe and around the world. Welcome to hour number 2 of a show that we've come up with, and you tell us you enjoy. Welcome to the Dr. Sky Experience. We like to call it Theater of the Mind. And in tonight's adventure, a very special guest, as all our guests, of course, help inform us about the great subjects of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests, and even American exceptionalism stories about truth, justice, and the American way. Tonight's adventure, in hour number 2, we continue with Dr. Cullen Gillespie. Ladies and gentlemen, a phenomenal book, Time Now, The True Nature of Reality. Questions and comments, always welcome, 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And thanks to our helmsmen, Tony and Bill. What do? They navigate this big starship signal so it just sounds as good as it should and what you would expect from a radio station that's going strong for 104 years and then some. Doctor, welcome back. Appreciate you, and I thank you for staying up with us. And, wow, so much to talk about and so limited time. So before we go to the callers, let's just get into this. What would be a simple definition from you, without stealing data from the book here? What is time? I mean, this is something that's perplexed people. Everything runs on time, but not always runs on time. Let's talk about that.
Well, look, Steve, the short story on time is that there is no such thing in the universe as what we call time. What we call time is what Einstein called time. It's what a clock says.
Yes.
And what a clock does is it moves. Okay, we see the moving of the hands. More recently, it's moving electrons or photons, but it's always motion. The universe does have a property that allows the hands to move, and that is that it changes. In effect, it's the universe that moves the hands, and it does that by becoming a new universe. The amazing thing is that that this was actually figured out around 500 BC by a Greek philosopher called Zeno of Elea, who was puzzled by how an arrow could move. For your listeners are interested to dig into it, just look up Zeno and the paradox of the arrow. That was his answer, and it turns out he was right.
So Zeno's paradox, let me see if I can comprehend this, would be what, if I'm saying it right? Is the question, is motion, is it real? In other words, is that a good way to describe it? Is motion real? Is that a better way to say it?
Yes, motion is what the universe does. So my definition of real, you'll find at the beginning of the book, is it's real if it is an actual property of the universe that we are describing accurately.
Interesting. That's amazing, Doctor, because thinking how far back in time these individuals have come up with these concepts that most people, everyday people, may have a very hard time understanding, and you're doing well with the explanation. But if we may, sir, let's continue with the callers. I mean, I always want to defer to the callers. They've been patient. Let's go to line number 5 and welcome Caesar in Brooklyn. Good morning. Thank you for being with us, and thanks for your patience. Go ahead, Caesar, on line 5.
Yes, hi. Hi, guys. How you doing? I got 2 points. My first point is with this AI stuff. I just have this feeling that down the line, these robots are going to try to rebel against us. That means no matter what we put in them, just for their purposes, you know, like they say, computers don't have their own minds. Well, I think with these AIs, that's going to be different. And my second point is, with these covert operations, you've been hearing all these things, the spaceships near our planet, this and that. I don't know if you guys remember the show, The Outer Limits.
Oh, I love it. It's sitting right here on my desk, Caesar. The episode.
There was an episode called The Architects of Fear.
Mm-hmm.
And on that episode, they created an alien, a ship and everything, so he'd come down and like we're being invaded. So I think that's in store, I think, in the next 10 years, some type of false invasion. But those are my points.
No, you bring up some good points, and I want the doctor to go and get deeper into this. But just from my perspective, Caesar, wouldn't you think it's like the movie The Terminator when Skynet took over, and you see those Terminator-type robots? They were like, even 25, 30 years ago, the show came out. It's a prediction of the future. I hope it's not true. But, Doctor, responding to Caesar, you have a lot more to add, I'm sure.
Well, look, Caesar, if you figure out a good response to AI, please sign me up.
Okay. That's interesting. It is something to be concerned about. I mean, not to scare people, but if it goes the wrong way, Caesar, you're 100% right. We don't need this nonsense. But who's in charge? Who's behind the curtain? And who's running the show back there? That's another thing, right, Caesar? Well, I guess we... Yeah,
but and with the other thing, with the Architects of Fears, I do think that some type of, I just couldn't think of the name, are going to try to create a false invasion in the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's many sci-fi movies about that. But we can't even get, Caesar, and Doctor, we can't even get an answer to whether or not UFOs have really been recovered and the alien bodies. We're waiting for that answer. And that one, Caesar, we got to move forward. But no, thank you. You bring up some good, points of what might happen with the problematic thing of AI. Thank you so much. Let's go to line number 4. We say hello to Alexi in Queens. Alexi, good morning. How are you?
Yes, good morning, Dr. Sky, and good morning to your respective guests.
Thank you.
It's interesting. You go to the ultra microcosm, down to the level of the atom. Interactions occur in very brief intervals. The entire lifetime of a particle may exist for maybe 10 to the minus 14th of a second. which is nothing. It's a billionth of a
very
second.
tiny.
And you go, and you go to the macrocosm, where you have stars that persist for almost 8 to 10 billion years. So you have this peculiarity with time. It seems very critically dependent upon the physical size as we determine it of the object. What I find fascinating is this idea of the orbiting system of a proton. You have a proton with an electron orbiting, such as the hydrogen atom. And then you go up the periodic ladder and you've got hydrogen, helium, lithium, and so on. More and more protons, more and more electrons. Okay. Sure. But each level that you go up has a certain energy value. The K shell, the L shell, the M shell. You know what I'm talking about, I hope.
Well, the good doctor does, but Alexei, let him explain some of this too, because it is deep, and we want to make sure that the answers we get. That's why we go to special guests. Doctor, please continue on what Alexei's describing.
Well, thank you, Alexei. This is, and if I may, I'll approach your question at more or less the most fundamental level, because it's got more levels than that, including the atomic level and the subatomic level. But the most interesting level is at the far end of the time scale. And you're right, there's a relationship to that scale. The time scale where all of these events are really happening, where all the action is, as I put it, is the Planck scale. And it's been around that long that it goes back to the time of Max Planck, 1900. But to this day, physics has not grappled with it at all. In fact, I have a quote of a fairly recent physicist saying it's more than your career is worth to even talk about the Planck scale.
Alexei, you get the last word on this. A very detailed conversation here, but you get the last word on this.
Yes. And you go to the macrocosm, the solar system. You have the sun at the central, like the nucleus of atoms. And around the sun are orbiting planets in thick, very thick, clearly distinct orbits. What I believe is that you reach a critical point in the volume of mass. Mass, of course, consists also of many, many protons.
Yes.
And you go to the planets, they consist of many, many protons. So what happened, you have almost like a comparison between, let's say, you take the atom of uranium, it has 92 protons. It has the K shell, the L, the M, 2, 8, 18, 32, so on.
Right, nuclear decay.
The same thing here with the solar system. You have discrete orbits containing a discrete particular amount of mass in each orbit at a discrete distance. It is very organized, similar to the structure of the way a heavy element arrangement is. So this is what I'm getting at, is that we have a mirror of the microcosm in the form of the solar system, in a manner of speaking.
Right, so there's a symbology between the micro and the macro, as you're describing to the audience. Thank you, Alexei. Not to cut people short, but we got a full board of callers. Doctor, your final response. Alexei brings up some interesting things from the micro to the macro. He finds, and I agree with him, some synergy in commonality there.
I completely agree that the amazing thing, and I comment on it, is the extraordinary range of scale, of size, and of time that science has been able to investigate and measure. and the full range is from the Planck scale to the entire universe. The Planck scale in terms of size to the size of the entire universe, which is clearly quite a lot bigger than what we can see. And in time scale, from the Planck time to the lifetime of the universe to now, 13-point-something billion years. And we now have an observational grasp of quite a lot of both of those timescales. That's pretty amazing.
Very well said. Thank you, Alexei, for calling in. You always have insightful questions and commentary. Let's move on to our neighbor to the north in Canada. Let's say on line number 2, good morning to Aaron. You've been patient in Winnipeg, Canada. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Dr. Gillespie, I'm trying to understand more about your book and what, it's like you're looking to introduce us to a new idea of reality. And, I've tried to look up a bit on the internet, on Amazon and such to get a sense of what the book's about, but haven't really heard enough to understand what the book's about. Can you, it sounds like you're maybe talking about origins of the universe or things like that, but I'd be interested to know what you would say your book's about.
Well, Aaron, one of the best questions we've heard so far as we move into hour number 2. Doctor, absolutely. Good question from Aaron in Winnipeg. Please continue.
Well, there's more than one way to answer the question, but let me kick it off by saying it's about understanding. I just wanted to understand. In fact, as I say in the book, that's why I went into physics and was disappointed to find that actually physics isn't about understanding. It's about what works rather than what is true. That's been the case since about 1920. This probably it may surprise Aaron. It wouldn't surprise any physicist. They know full well that's the way it is and the way it's been.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
More than that, what I wanted to understand is what actually is and how does it work. That's what the book's about.
That's interesting. Aaron, last word and comment from you. We have many callers, but yours is insightful. Your question, what the heck is the book about? You get the last word. Go ahead, please.
Well, I guess is there anything, it seems from the blurbs that I've seen on the internet that maybe your book is looking at the origins of the universe or a new theory of everything or something along those lines. I'm just trying to get a sense of what would be in store for me if I dig into this book.
In brief, it says that if you want your understanding to be consistent, this is the way it is. Space is made of little pieces. Here's how they work. Here's how the universe began. Here's what matter is. Here's what subatomic particles are. Here's why they do what they do. It covers quite a range, all the way up to, if you get close to the end of the book, there's a chapter on economics.
That's interesting. You know, Aaron, my interpretation, and I haven't finished the book, but my interpretation, which I think the audience will appreciate, everybody has their own, is that we're trying to interpolate and combine what, Einstein had done with general and special relativity and combine it with more of the things from this whole realm as we talk about particle physics and quantum theory into something called the theory of everything. So if we could meld both of those things together, and I think scientists are working together, that would be an amazing thing, and that's why the beat goes on. Aaron, thank you. Appreciate you in Canada, and stay warm, as all the people listening, of course, are experiencing the throes of winter. here across the nation and probably well into the world. You know, Doctor, this is fascinating. I know we didn't have time to really jump into this in detail, but we will as we continue on the show to talk about Einstein and his, two different, I think, monumental works, Special and General Relativity. Somebody once told me that if you were at the time of 1915, you might have gone into this particular patent office and seen this man there, who, of course, if you wanted to patent something, you would go there, and if he was the clerk, you would get to meet Albert Einstein. But you didn't know that behind the scenes he was working on those most amazing things, general and special relativity. Can you imagine meeting him when you're going in to patent something of your own? That must have been an amazing experience, if only they knew, right? Amazing stuff.
Yeah, it would have been fun to be there.
It sure would. You know, ladies and gentlemen, as we move through time and space, I just want to mention, as we continue on our Saturday, midnight into 2 a.m. on Sunday, another special guest with a great book. Stay tuned then for that particular show, just some 24 hours or less away. The book entitled The Way to World Peace, an idea whose time has come, with Kenneth Paul Callison. Great guest here, ladies and gentlemen, as we talk about many of the mysteries. But the reason I mentioned that, Doctor, so many people say, we would hope, many people want to believe that there's intelligent life or life in the universe, because it's simple, and it's pretty simple, and I don't have to repeat it. Simply, why can't we all get along here on planet number 3 when who knows what civilizations lie in the universe? So that gentleman will give us his view of the way to world peace, something that, of course, everybody does need. So this book, do you have a website that you can give us that people can contact you, or some other way that you suggest? Because this is fascinating in our short time today and this morning. People may want to know how to get in touch with you.
I'm not sure what would be the best way. I have a site, ColinGillespie.com. My publisher of the previous book, Time One, which is about how the universe began, has a website, bigfizz.ca. I'm not hard to find if you want to.
Well, of course, if you just Google Colin Gillespie, and you can find so much more about this. And also, just to mention, ladies and gentlemen, the book publisher is Rodin, R-O-D-I-N Books. That may help them, of course, in going ahead and acquiring more information about you, which is so fascinating. In our last half hour, Doctor, I'd like to get into these conversational points. I want to talk about the arrow of time, that is, and talk about this whole thing, the cosmic anthropic principle, which I've talked about many times in public meetings, and talk about what that really means, and simply that the universe laws seem or twisted or tuned to the existence of intelligent life. Why? I mean, this particular planet, it's so unusual that if you look at everything astronomers have detected with the, James Webb, the Hubble telescope, we've yet to find, even though we've found planets, exoplanets, we're not really sure, right, Doctor, that there's anything out there that responds back to us and says, here we are. How are you over the vast distances of space? So a lot more to discover on this, and a lot more in positivity. Hopefully, we'll get the answer to what the UFO story is, which I think everybody would believe me that the government is holding back, don't you think? All the experience and experts that have talked about it and whatever evidence is out there, a magical subject to talk about. Please continue as we go to the hard break in about a minute and a half.
Oh, that's quite a mouthful to
yes, it is.
It's tackle amazing. In a minute and a half, Steve. Very simply, if you look out the window, so to speak, all that stuff is a long way away, as you know. And when you take a look at what's there, it is a lot of stars. It's something like 100 billion galaxies, each averaging maybe 100 billion stars, if you want round numbers. And on average, each star has more than one planet. The chances that life isn't out there seem to me to be pretty ridiculously small.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. More with Dr. Colin Gillespie. And if we haven't gotten to you, like Stu on Line 3 in Brooklyn, how about Andy in Maine? And Edgar in the Bronx, will do our very best to do this on the Dr. Sky Experience. We call it Theater of the Mind, and hope you're enjoying these shows. If you'd like to listen to other broadcasts that we've done, the iteration goes to the website, wabcradio.com, and or redappleaudionetworks.com. And my email simply is this, just DRSKY at wabcradio.com. More on the Dr. Sky Experience when we return from the hard break at the bottom of the hour.
This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
This is George Thorogood of the Destroyers, listening to the Dr. Sky Show. He is bad to the bone.
The nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, and the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made from collapsing stars. We are simply made of star stuff. A quote from the great astronomer, Carl Sagan. You're with me, Dr. Sky, on the Dr. Sky Experience, 32 minutes after the hour. And if you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, just prepare for this winter storm coming in. Hope that you and your families will be safe. And, of course, tucked in the warmth of your homes and not out there doing any driving unless absolutely necessary. Our special guest, Dr. Colin Gillespie, the book, Time Now, The True Nature of Reality. And, ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. This book goes to my bookshelf. Why? Because the details in here are simple to read, simple to understand, and the good doctor takes on so many of the toughest subjects in the world of not only space, physics, time, quantum physics, etc., etc. Let's go now to line number 3. He's been patient. Stu in Brooklyn, you're on the air. Thanks for joining us. How are you? Stu, are you with us on line 3?
What's up?
Go ahead, sir. You're on the air.
Yeah. The question I have is this. You talk about the reality. My reality is the Kharkov Institute. People with names no one knows anymore. Lev Landau, Weisselberg, Bronstein. These were the most brilliant minds at the time. And all that they were doing was working on pure science. They were working with the Planck's constant, or developing the mathematics for the Boltzmann, and so on. Is there any institutions that exist today where we are training students or have students who are working on pure scientific research and projects like that is not motivated by money?
Well, Stu, you bring up something interesting here. Doctor, this is a deep question here, and it's like, I think there are plenty of places, but you're our guest, and we defer to you on that question from Stu.
Look, it's a good question. The answer is, I think, quite a lot, quite a few. In the book, one of them plays a major role. It's the Perimeter Institute in Waterloo, Ontario. I won't go into why. It's a bit of a mystery to be solved for the reader. It is purely concerned with half a dozen areas of physics, it was endowed with a lot of money by a businessman, and has gotten a lot of money from governments since then. So I don't think that money is something that is a concern there. But I would just want to note that what they're not concerned with there is reality. There's one physicist who works there, Lee Smolin, who has, I think, thought a lot about it and written a lot about it. He's very unusual because he actually studied philosophy.
Yes.
By and large, physicists are concerned with what works. And this has been the case since the 1920s, when Albert Einstein's work, not on relativity, but on what came to be called photons, led to quantum theory, and quantum theory works. Why does it work? Famous physicists have said nobody understands quantum theory. It doesn't, on the face of it, make any sense whatsoever, but it works. And that has been the governing ethic of theoretical physics for the last 100 and some years.
Well, Stu, stay with us a minute. I wanted to ask you a question. If they're not studying pure science, then tell us what you think is being interwoven into the education, thing. Well, what are they doing that, is away from direct science? Are they doing pseudoscience? I mean, tell us. I'm trying to understand that better. I guess
You're asking me?
Yes, sir, I am. Go ahead. No, I was asking what, we're just saying about pure science. What then are they teaching if it's not pure science? Well, what else are they doing?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Okay.
I mean, you just heard of the use of some of the wonderful science that they developed when we raided Caracas and used sonic weapons to wipe out all of the courts.
Yeah, I hear
and
you.
I'm sure that we have boats crossing the Caspian as we speak, probably the Turkmenistan fishing boats with weapons that are going to wind up very soon in Iran. That's going to happen, and it should happen. And the existence of the smallest subatomic particle of it in the existence of the rioters in Minnesota. The smallest subatomic particle that I call, it's called the moron.
Well, you brought up an interesting thing and transgressed into the political time of the world, but for this particular show, we're going to move forward. Stu, appreciate your call. No, I really do, about pure science. Let's say good morning on line number 5. He's been patient. Andy in the state of Maine. Thanks for being with us and your patience. Appreciate it.
Gentlemen, what is your views on reality checks? Because I found them worthless and impossible to cash.
Well, Doctor, every once in a while, we get a funny man. But there you go. Let's try another serious caller, possibly, but it's always good to have a little lighthearted moment. Line number 4, we welcome Edgar in the Bronx. Thanks for your patience, and how are you?
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. The question that I have has to do with a series, Star Trek, which kind of was very, very popular and still is in modern day. But the initial premises that would be expressed at the beginning of every episode of the original thing, Enterprise 5-year mission, the brand new, and then I learned about relativity. How do I jive these two concepts of 5-year missions? And knowing that if you're traveling at the speed of light or close to it,
yes,
what does a 5-year mission mean?
Well, that's amazing. I mean, that's just I guess Gene Roddenberry had this whole concept, but, as far as their mission into space. But, Doctor, please continue on this, because the intersection of Star Trek and science fiction, wow, this is a cool subject. I love it.
Oh, it's a great show, and, it gives rise to all kinds of questions like this one. Very simply, the answer depends on where you are. If you're on the mission or if you're outside watching it or waiting for him to come home. Now the theory in the show behind it that has fast and light travel actually makes nonsense out of the question. So you probably don't want to go there in that sense. But if, as you ask, in the way you pose the question, Edgar, of a mission that's traveling close to the speed of light, if it's very close to the speed of light, it could be that they take 5 years before they come home, as far as you are concerned. But as far as they're concerned, it was 20 minutes. That's...
you bring it up, Doctor, you say it...
That's special relativity.
Yeah, you say it very well, but I think in a simpler way to say it, and Andy, I think what the question is, maybe that's something as they went out and permeated deeper into space. If you look at Star Trek, they had these different locations that they were actually, I don't want to use the word conquer, the word is explore, and maybe that was the timeline. Of course, Gene Roddenberry knows much more about this if we could ask him. But Andy, you get the last word. You bring up some interesting things, correlating science fiction with quantum physics. A very interesting connection. So, Andy, are you still there? I guess we lost
this is Edgar.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Go right ahead. I'm sorry, sir. I had it all wrong. Go ahead,
you
sir.
Can hear me? Oh, yes. Okay. No, because Star Trek became all these, spun off many iterations of itself. Mm-hmm. And one of the latest ones I saw, that black actress, Shaniqua Green, from Night of the Dead, Walking Dead. But anyway, she became a captain of a starship. But the prologue before every episode brings up meeting somebody for their birthday on a Sunday. They would be getting whatever was being transmitted. They would get it on a Sunday, and I'm saying, how is this possible if relativity is a true understanding?
I understand what you're saying. In other words, how can you have a specific day of the calendar week if you're in the infinity of space? Right. But again, I think they did that just so the audience would be, how do I say this? At least there's some correlation, even though the time and the whole subject gets so deep when you get into quantum physics. But again, Edgar, thank you. I'm sorry I confused you with Andy. He was the funny man that called, but you're the serious guy that called, and I appreciate your call. Hope you're warm, and hope everybody comes out of this winter storm just fine. Appreciate your time. Doctor, before the end of this hour, I'd like to get into a couple of these strange conundrums, and I'd like to save that as when we come back in just a couple of minutes here. The ones that I'd like to have you discuss to the audience, and we'll hold off on the answer here, but just to set the stage. Schrodinger's cat. This superposition thing. Particles can exist in two places at the same time. And then as we continue to talk with you on this whole subject of quantum entanglement, which really rocks the world of quantum physics, and it sure got my attention. Much more, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Colin Gillespie, Time Now, The True Story of Reality, an excellent book, not only in my opinion, but so many people who have reviewed it. Here on the Dr. Sky Experience, still time at 1-800-848-9222 for you to say what you want to say. We will be right back.
This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hi, this is Barry Farber. You're listening to Steve Cates. He is a man of many words, but much wisdom in those words. Always refuse to be a victim. Fight back legally and responsibly.
Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it's a profound source of spirituality. Another quote from the late, great Carl Sagan. As we move to the top of hour number 2, 47 minutes after the hour, we're continuing with Dr. Colin Gillespie, and proud to call him a friend of the show. Let's go to the callers here before we have the good doctor explain those two conundrums, Schrodinger's cat and quantum entanglement. Let's say good morning to Pamela in New Jersey. Pamela, thank you. You're on the air.
Thank you. Good morning. To answer that gentleman's questions a few times ago, the reality of science is, the applied sciences, is that many times, most often, and actually all the time, it's in the hands of governments for either defense or security, offensive reasons. And it sits there nestled in the government, being used for 30 years. And then all of a sudden it pops out and then we're hit with it. The public is hit with it. And then we are like, oh, my God. For instance, AI and computers, which from what I'm hearing from the majority of the people, we feel totally, totally overburdened by it. And it's just making our lives crazy.
Well, Pamela, powerful stuff from you. You're right. I mean, the concerns that people have about AI, the jury will be out there and people will decide. But I hear what you're saying. Maybe we don't have any ability to make the decision. Doctor, a little divergent conversation there, but your comment, if you'd like to comment on this, from Pamela.
Well, like I said, I'm pretty sympathetic, especially on the AI angle. Everything that comes along that solves some problems brings its own problems, and it's I feel like a cost-benefit question. Unfortunately, we don't always do the cost-benefit, and even if we do, we don't necessarily have the ability to stop the train. So my concern is that whatever the benefits, the real benefits of AI, and there will be some, may turn out to be, I'm concerned that its potential for damage is much worse.
Pamela, I hope you're enjoying our shows, and you get the last word on this, a very interesting subject that we'll cover in detail with other guests in the future, too.
Thank you. I'm in agreement with what the gentleman said, and it's unfortunate that mankind is so hell-bent on having so many aspects of it ruining life on this planet, because if energies were spent on this science, just making life comfortable and livable and just to enjoy the little things in life. I have a garden. Many people do not have gardens anymore. In my older neighborhood used to have beautiful gardens, wrought iron, because people want to just show off their houses and their fancy cars, and the yards are ugly now. And I actually have children and people coming up to me and saying, "What's this?" I said, "It's a plant. It's a garden." Yeah. And but there's bees on it. I said, bees are good for society.
Absolutely.
If we don't have bees, we don't have life. I enjoy they call them little things of life, but I believe they're the big parts of life.
Well, Pamela, you say it so well. I could give you a big hug if I could reach out into the radio, through the radio, because you're right. I mean, this whole thing, let's go back to nature more and not necessarily become a slave to the beast of what this thing might be. But that's up to future conversations. Pamela, thank you. I hope you are warm in your home and everybody out there safe from the storm that's approaching. Let's go to Bill in Huntington. Bill, you're on the air. Thank you for your patience. Your question or comment.
In the Middle Ages, the concept of the universe was the Earth was a sphere at the center of the universe, surrounded by concentric shells, one for each of the planets, and the outer shell was a celestial sphere, had the stars painted on the inside. And they had no conception of a vacuum, so they said that outside everything was the mind of God. Okay?
Interesting. Yeah.
Now, what I want to ask is this concept obsolete, or does it have any place left?
Wow. And Bill, thanks for your call. Always listening to you. You'll have to take the answer off air due to the time constraints. But, Doctor, I think he brings up always, as Bill in Huntington brings up some interesting points.
Yeah, this is a rather big question to try to tackle on a radio show.
Especially theater of the mind, right?
Right. Look, Bill's description of the way it was seen is accurate. And how that translates into the present setting is perhaps the best way I can describe it is to say that what seemed like a simple question fragments into many, many, many questions, and I'm not sure which one we would chase after, but if we did, we would be losing the big picture, which is that it's become a very complex set of questions.
Two very strange conundrums that I promised the audience we would at least try to go over, and I know this would take hours to explain, no disrespect to you. Schrodinger's cat, this whole concept of superposition, particles can exist in two places at the same time. It seems so mind-boggling in the simplest way you can explain it. How do we understand Schrodinger's cat and what that was?
Well, the problem is that we don't know what we're talking about.
I like that. Go ahead.
Very simply, we're talking about quantum this and quantum that, and ignoring the question, what is the quantum? And the guy who started it all off, Albert Einstein, was desperately concerned with that question for the rest of his life. But it doesn't appear in his published work. It appears in many of his letters. He has a huge correspondence that has, until recently, been very hard to get into. But that's the basic question. What is the quantum? Okay, and in Time Now, I say that the answer to his question, which he couldn't then see, is the quantum is a quantum of space.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
And once you're looking at that, you're looking at a completely different scale of size than quantum theory is dealing with. It's dealing with atoms, which back then were thought to be amazingly small. And the other aspect that we need to put in view is that once you understand how the universe is put together out of quanta of space and what they are, we then see that we understand why the universe is non-local, why it is that these strange quantum effects can occur. When you're looking at where the action is, they're actually very simple and ordinary and just make sense.
That's amazing. And then the other one, which would take hundreds of years to explain, because as you said, apropos, probably nobody really understands quantum mechanics or quantum physics, this whole thing called quantum entanglement, the ability for particles to connect over time and space. Like if you were on one side of the universe, this would be instantaneous. And even as this has been measured, I'm reading this, in the attosecond time of these particles connecting, 1 quintillionth of a second is an attosecond. Doesn't that just boggle the mind, how something in one place could transmit to the other side, no matter how far away it was, almost instantaneous? I'm doing a poor job of explaining it because I'm not the quantum physicist. What's your quick take on that in about a minute and a half? That's impossible. Right?
The real picture is again, a very simple one. Every one of those quanta of space is directly connected to every other quantum of space. You need to kind of see how it develops in order for that to make sense. But that actually is the simple, consistent picture. And so the fact that what happens to one of them can connect in a Planck time, let alone an attosecond, to any other one, even if it's at the far reaches of the universe, that's how non-local, how connected the universe actually is.
Well, folks, our mission from day one, almost a year here on this particular iteration, the Dr. Sky Experience, has been to talk about the great mysteries of the universe. And a special thank to you, Doctor. Your website, of course, CullenGillespie.com. People can go there and find out more. But equally important, the moment of time that we've had today, we appreciate you. The book, Time Now, The True Nature of Reality. And folks, when you see this book, it's not 5 pages, it's about 800 pages and good information there that as I'm reading it, I must be honest with the audience, I haven't finished it yet. Usually I get through all the books. But ladies and gentlemen, take time out for Time Now, The True Nature of Reality. I hope we'll do this again, Doctor, and stay warm. Thanks for being up with us in this early morning hours. And in the beautiful nation of Canada, we thank you for your participation. Have a good morning, sir.
And you too.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned before, as Carl Sagan had said, and many others, well, he didn't actually say this, but on the pale blue dot he said, many people have said, why simply can't we all just get along? And putting that into a better perspective, a very interesting guest that we've chosen here. His name is Kenneth Paul Callison. His book, The Way to World Peace, An Idea Whose Time Has Come. Very interesting concepts here about how human nature hopefully can change for the better as we move into this year. And hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, try to have some sort of peace and semblance in a world that may be like the Temptations song, "The world is but yet a ball of confusion." Let's hope on the positive side. Much more, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to move through time and space. Always, you can listen, that is, to previous radio shows here, these Dr. Sky Experience programs, the Theater of the Mind, this particular adventure. Go to WABCRadio.com and also RedAppleAudioNetworks.com. My email simply, and I always respond, is drsky@WABCRadio.com. And our sky report, we've kind of been remiss because we realized the big storm is probably blotting out most of the heavens. But when that hopefully passes soon enough, ladies and gentlemen, as a distant memory, the wonders of the sky as we move deeper into January, in February, and then in March, a major total eclipse of the moon that will take place on the morning hours of the 3rd of March, 2026. Thank you to our helmsmen, Tony and Bill, and stay tuned as we pass the torch of conversation and dialogue to TJ McCormick on the other side of midnight. We'll see you on our Saturday, Sunday morning show with great information from these great realms. Have a good morning and be safe and be warm.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and busts. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.